Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the COSCA Board of Directors to order. And if you would please rise and join me in saluting the flag. Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I believe I'm supposed to read this before the roll call. All right. So, Vice Chair Newman is participating remotely this evening pursuant to Government Code Section 54943C. Vice Chair Newman, is there anyone 18 years or of age or older with you in the room?
There is not, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. If there are no persons 18 years of age or older, then we can move on with the rest of the meeting. Thank you very much. So with that, if we could have the roll call, please.
Director Engler?
Here.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Sullivan?
Here.
Vice Chair Newman?
Here.
Chair Huffer?
Yes. Thank you very much. Item 3 on the agenda, presentations and announcements. Brian, you have an introduction you would like to make?
I do. I wanted to take this opportunity to see a new, fresh, friendly face at the staff table over here, and I wanted to introduce you all to Rosemary Koo. She is our new attorney assigned by the city attorney's office. She's been with the city attorney's office how long now? A couple of months? 3 months. And I mean, and in only 3 months, she got the most coveted assignment in all of the city to represent COSCA. So I just wanted to give her a warm welcome.
Well, thank
all
you
of
very
our
much,
behalf.
and congratulations on your coveted assignment. Thank you. Welcome to our organization. Item 4 on the agenda, public comments. I don't see any cards,
No, we have no cards.
and nobody online waiting to make comments, so
No.
great. Thank you very much. Item 5 on the agenda, consent calendar, approval of minutes of the December 10th meeting. You
Move
don't-
approval?
Second.
Thank you. Do we need a roll call vote on this?
Let's do roll call.
Let's.
Director Engler?
Yes.
Director Newman?
Aye.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Chair Huffer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. Item 6, action items. First one is the annual board organization. Mr. Stark, are you going to start us off on this?
I'll get you all started here. So 2 actions for you here. One is to find that this action is not a project as defined under the California Environmental Quality Act. And in accordance with the provisions of Article 8 of the COSCA Joint Exercise of Powers Agreement, the COSCA Board shall select a chair and vice chair. Section 12 of the COSCA Manual of Procedure indicates elections shall occur at the first meeting of each calendar year, and that is today. Most recently, Director Huffer has served as chair and Director Newman as vice chair. Article 8 of the JPA further states that the board shall appoint a secretary. The secretary may but need not be a member of the board. The COSCA board secretary is currently myself. As the board secretary is not an ex officio position. So it's recommended at your pleasure there. At this point, I will turn it back to you for your job of choosing a new chair and vice chair and secretary.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Stark. I will open the floor for nominations for election of the 2026 board chair. Sure, Doug.
I would like to nominate Vice Chair Newman as our chair, elect for, or chair for the upcoming, kind of step up from vice chair to chair, so to speak.
Thank you very much. Do we have any additional nominations? If not, I'd like a motion to close the nominations.
Motion to close.
Thank you very much. I'm hoping, Director Newman, that you're not going to decline this great honor.
I accept with humility and much appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, do we take a roll call vote on this as well?
Yes.
And if you'll call the vote?
Director Engler?
Yes.
Director Newman?
Aye.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Chair Huffer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
So does that mean now that he gets to direct this from home or wherever he's floating around the country? I'll go ahead and continue, and Oh, yeah, it would be. All right, so the second item then is a election of our vice chair. I will open the floor for nominations.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
or Mr. Chair Emeritus, or whatever.
yes,
I would like to nominate our resident representative, Ms. Sullivan, as vice chair for the coming year.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. You'll accept, are there any other nominations? If not, I will accept a motion to close nominations.
Close nominations.
Thank you very much. We have a roll call vote, please.
Director Engler,
Yes.
Director Huffer,
Yes,
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Sullivan,
Aye.
Chair Newman.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you very much. And then the final item is appointment of the board secretary. I will entertain motion for this. Director Sullivan?
I move that our Mr. Stark continues in that role for us.
Okay. Any further nominations? If not,
Move to close.
thank you very much. Roll call vote, please.
Director Engler,
Yes.
Director Huffer,
Yes,
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Sullivan,
Aye.
Chair Newman.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you very much. Congratulations, Mr. Stark.
No, thank you. Running unopposed again for the coveted secretary position. I did want to check with our recording secretary if we needed a formal action, finding that the selection of our directors is not a project under the Environmental Quality Act. Do we need to?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll accept your motion and determination.
Sure.
Yeah, I would like to move that the selection of our board is not a project under CEQA.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on that? If have a roll call vote, please.
Director Engler,
Yes.
Director Huffer,
Yes,
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Sullivan,
Aye.
Chair Newman.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you very much. Is there anything else we need to do on that item?
I think we're good.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to action item B, annual financial report for fiscal year 2024-25.
Yes, each year at our first board meeting, we have the pleasure of welcoming the City of Thousand Oaks Finance Department to present COSCA's audited report for the last fiscal year. So there'll be two actions to take today. One is to find that this action is not a project as defined under the California Environmental Quality Act, and to receive and file COSCA's annual financial report for fiscal year 2024 and 2025. This evening, we have Elisa Casada, who is the accounting manager with the city, to give a brief presentation of the audit report, and then we'll be available for questions.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Elisa Casada, the accounting manager for the accounting division in the finance department. I will be providing a summary of COSCA's financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. COSCA's net position increased $1.2 million to $120.6 million by fiscal year end. Program revenues decreased $20.4 million compared to prior fiscal year increase, primarily due to one-time capital grants and land contributions that were recorded in the previous fiscal year. As you may recall, the prior fiscal year reflected the transfer of parcels that were officially recorded by the county for approvals that were granted in 2008, 2010, and 2022. So that's why there was a big increase in the prior fiscal year. Program expenses increased by $0.2 million, primarily due to overall increases in open space maintenance and restoration. COSCA ended with $10.5 million in cash and investments that is held for future open space acquisitions and maintenance. This is comparable to prior fiscal year's balance of $10.4 million. Capital assets increased $1.1 million for an ending balance of $110.2 million. This increase is primarily related to land additions related to developer or city donations, and I believe there was some small purchases made this year. That just the overall summary. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions? No? Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Is there any additional information, Mr. Stark, that you'd like to share with the board?
No, I think everything came out as we expected it to. Just having all the land transfers that we did in the last couple of years finally came up, at the county level, and then the city reconciles those records with the county periodically. So nothing unexpected about the finance this year.
Okay. There are no questions for staff. I guess we do need to take action on whether or not this is CEQA.
Yeah, we'll need a CEQA action, and beyond that, it's just
because we're just filing this for.
right.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion. Director Engler?
Yeah, I'll move that we receive and file this information, and it is not a project impacted by CEQA.
Thank you very much.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? If not, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Director Engler?
Yes.
Director Huffer?
Yes.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Chair Newman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much. And since I'm a little fog-bound, it occurs to me that since our chair is not available, that I should really be turning things over to our vice chair. So I'm going to, from this point forward, have our vice chair run the meeting. Congratulations.
Thank you. Did you have something to say?
Chair could run remotely if he'd like, but I just don't know if that's perfect.
Chair Newman, did you want to run the meeting from here on out?
I'll defer, thank you. I do want to give thanks to staff and to my colleagues for facilitating my ability to participate remotely while I recuperate from some injuries I suffered in an accident. But I think logistically, it is probably easier to have someone who is in the room running the meeting. So, Madam Vice Chair, I defer to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Newman, and a speedy recovery to you. So this takes us to action item C, which is the purchase and sale agreement with escrow instructions for assessor parcel 673-0-280-130 between Caneo Open Space Conservation Agency and Drew Klein. Mr. Stark.
Thank you. So what we're looking at today are two actions. One is to find that the following actions are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines 14 CCR sections 15061, 15313, 15317, and 15325, and to approve a purchase and sale agreement with escrow instructions for assessor's parcel number 6730280-130 between COSCA and Drew Klein, the seller, and to authorize our co-administrative officer or designee to execute the agreement and all other documents necessary to effectuate the purchase, including the authority to accept the deed, subject to resolution of any liens and encumbrances. I do have a brief PowerPoint show. We're also asking the board to approve a budget appropriation and expenditure in an amount not to exceed $42,000, which is $38,000 for the purchase price plus closing costs not to exceed $4,000, from our account number 889-000023899.00, which is the COSCA Trust Fund. So the property proposed for acquisition lies in the Southern Ridge open space area and adjacent to property already owned by COSCA. The property consists of 6 underlying lots that are part of an antiquated subdivision known as the Ventura Park Extension Number 4 tract in the county of Ventura that together amount to 0.46 acres. The subject property has frontage on South Ventura Park Road and is steeply sloped, hosting a mature native chaparral vegetation community. The purchase price is $38,000, which is based on a contemporary narrative appraisal for the same value. This project has the benefit of securing a larger area, including multiple lots in a single transaction. We have purchased a lot of very small lots in this area. It's nice to get like a grouping of them together once. Less paperwork. The subject property is located outside of the city limits, but lies within COSCA's jurisdiction by virtue of its inclusion in the CRPD jurisdictional area. The COSCA Trust Fund is the recommended funding source for projects lying outside of city limits due to limitations on the use of city funds outside of city limits. So sometimes we use the CROSIF account, when we're in the city, then the city becomes the title holder and then they transfer to COSCA. When we work outside of city limits, we do direct using a COSCA board directed funds, so COSCA can receive the titles directly. As for CEQA, the project falls under section 15061, the common sense exemption, which applies when it can be seen with certainty that there's no possibility that the activity may have any significant effect on the environment. It also aligns with section 15313, which covers minor actions to protect wildlife. Section 15317, which pertains to maintaining open space character of an area, and section 15325, which covers transfers of ownership or interest in land to preserve as open space or to maintain existing natural conditions. Collectively, these exemptions encompass activities that maintain or enhance natural resources without resulting in significant environmental impacts. So, with that, I will take any questions you have.
Board? Director Nichols?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Stark. I do have just a couple of questions. In the background section of your report, it does state that, as you mentioned, the parcel is outside of the city limits, but within COSCA. So this is that Ventura Park County jurisdiction holding area, correct?
Yeah, it's right up along where all the RasNow donation was and all.
Yes,
And
okay.
we have about 200 lots up in that area.
Then I noticed there seems to be like a missing piece in the puzzle there. I'm just curious, is there a story behind that?
There probably is, but I wouldn't hazard to guess on it. These are lots that have disparate ownership, and many of the lots in this area are no longer tracked by the county even. They're not collecting property taxes on them because they're below a threshold. So a lot of these are probably like intestate properties that don't have an active ownership. For the ones that are larger like this, we do continue to send letters out periodically to try and interest people in selling us the larger ones. The smaller ones, we're not really chasing actively because it's the same amount of work for a very little amount of land. And many of these lie completely within our ownership already, so it's not really necessary that we would pay for them.
Okay.
But this particular lot was actually just listed for sale, and that's how we found out about it.
So with that interesting configuration of the parcel, is there 6 lots that comprise that single parcel? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so this is one tax parcel, but underneath the tax parcel can be multiple legal lots.
Correct.
So there are 6 legal lots
Okay.
within this. So the one in the middle, we'll have that one surrounded
Okay.
at this point.
All right. Well, they'll have to surrender with waving a white flag or something, I guess, then. Okay. Let's see what else. I had something here. Oh, okay. Answered that one. And this is more just I don't know if it's a typo or not, but it's page 9 of 12 of the agreement, and it's section 4, item B, says to COSCA Brian Stark. It says, and then the second paragraph says, attention, Assistant COSCA Rosemary Koo. Should that be Assistant COSCA Attorney? Is it up above it says as COSCA Attorney? I don't know if that was just something was missing there, or?
It may be a typo. I mean,
Okay.
Rosemary should be credited as Assistant City Attorney.
Okay, well,
So-
that's what I thought, right up above, but I thought, well, maybe there was something
make a note
that
of
was
that.
missing there. Okay. All right, otherwise, that was it. Thank you. Wait, let me see. Oh, no, I did have one more. I'm sorry. Next, but that's on the next item. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments or questions? Director Engler?
Just a curiosity question. This property is up on the South Hill, as you said. I'm not sure what the county's requirements on development is. It's a smaller property, it's half acre basically. Could this property be developed?
This property has some fairly severe slope, so it's also zoned in a scenic protection area. There are no utilities. There's no water or sewer connections. So it's like, we can see that some homeowners in the area have acquired enough land to sort of to change its shape to make it more amenable. But these, achieving that is very costly. So from an economic perspective, so the way the appraiser looks at it is they look very much at how difficult it is to develop, and if it would need a well, it needs septic, and septic on a 30% slope is very difficult. So, and the engineering of access to a driveway. So there's a lot of constraints to it.
Okay. It would really be, if this area could be developed, it'd be very strong argument for us to acquire.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, when we look at challenging properties to develop, it's not so much that you can't do anything with it. It's just what's it going to cost to do something, whether it's economically viable to do so. It's still, when we look at this property, for instance, you can see a lot of lots next to it that also have very healthy habitat in them. So this might be a keystone to working on some of these others to consolidate ownership on this hillside.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Director Huffer?
Yeah, I realize, Brian, this is fairly small property, but is there anything significant in terms of flora, fauna there that makes it stand out, or?
I think what it stands out for is just the completeness of its and the continuity of its habitat. It's chaparral. There no known rare or endangered species on it, but as a habitat type, even though we tend to have a lot of chaparral around our area, it's quite rare in the world. So we consider it all to be of value.
Okay, and then giving the location surrounded by non-open space property, I'm guessing there are no trails that run through it or could run through it or anything like that?
Not on this one. We do have a trail that crosses farther up that road. This one's a little bit further down the hill, but we don't anticipate ever having a trail in this area.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Newman, did you have any comments or questions?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I do have one concept question. I discussed this privately with Mr. Stark, but just to get it on the public record. Mr. Stark, just in terms of the way that COSCA acquires this land, can we just recap? Are all of the following statements true? That COSCA's domain is an amalgam of CRPD's area and the city's area, which are slightly different. They don't 100% overlap. This is currently outside city limits, so unincorporated county, but it is within CRPD's domain, so therefore also within COSCA's domain. And because it's already in COSCA's domain, this is a simple acquisition. There's no need to change a charter or annex land or anything like that. This is something that COSCA is already able to do by way of purchase. Is all of that correct?
Yes. So COSCA's jurisdictional area is a combination of the city limits and CRPD boundaries. So we get a little extra leeway out there. And we can see from the maps, if we scroll back to the larger area map, you can see we have a lot of all the green properties are COSCA properties today. So we've been actively working this area for some time. Historically, there have been situations where an acquisition would also include some annexation, but like down in the Rancho Potrero area way back in the old days. But in this area, it's well within our jurisdictional area.
Excellent. Glad to see we're adding to that ring of green. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Newman. I did drive by that area today just to get eyes on it to see different from the Google Map view. And there's a sign on the pavement about beyond this point is a private road, no trespassing unless you're a resident or a guest. And then you get to the dirt road, and that's before you get to this property. So I think it's great that we are saving that, preserving it. I don't think there's any need for trail there. Like you said, the Rasnow property has really allowed us that good access to connect everything. And if there are no other comments or questions, we have 3 items to motion on. Are we allowed to do those all as one lump motion? Excellent. Gentlemen?
I would like to move approval of staff recommendation 1, that the actions are exempt from CEQA. Item 2, to approve the purchase and sale agreement with instructions. And item 3, to approve the budget appropriation and expenditure not to exceed $42,000.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Fabulous. May we get a roll call, please?
Director Engler?
Yes.
Director Huffer?
Yes.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Chair Newman?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Excellent. That moves us on to action item 6D, appropriation of funds for roadway repairs and drainage management of the Autumn Ridge Road in Lang Ranch open space. Mr. Stark?
Yes, before you are 2 action items. One is to find that this action is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines 14 CCR sections 15304 and 15301, and to approve an appropriation of $32,500 from the Woolsey Fire Recovery Fund land management allocation for design and construction services to repair damage to an existing storm drainage structure on the Autumn Ridge Road in the Lang Ranch open space. I have a brief PowerPoint here. In May of 2024, COSCA contracted with J&H Engineering to implement a drainage improvement project on Autumn Ridge Road located at Lang Ranch. So you may have remembered this, but we had drainage was coming off the road and causing a big gully, and every now and then the road would wash out and we'd have to replace the road. So that was the fix. In November of 25, I noticed in your board package, I said that this was in November of 26 that we did something, but we're not there yet. So it really meant in 2025. But 6 days of heavy rain resulted in the formation of a sinkhole in Autumn Ridge Road right at the repair site. So you can see in our photo that the water no longer goes down our nicely installed pipe, but it went under it, and daylight's out on the exposed slope and started reforming the gully. We tried several attempts to fix it on our own, but this one was a tricky one. So in any case, a more permanent solution is going to be necessary in this location. So here's a map of the location from before. A repair project has been designed and a contractor selected through the city's Public Works Department on-call list, and we're basically having J&H Engineering, who built the project originally, to come and do the repairs, since they already had the engineering background on the first project. The first project, the sinkhole is unusual. I mean, hard to predict when a gopher is going to dig up through your road. And when it rains as hard as it did in November, all that water went down a gopher hole and accessed the rest of the gopher hole system and created a big drain. The solution this time is we will be doing a mix of concrete and soil, putting a hard pan across the road and making a drainage structure that will feed right into the pipe, We're going to lower the pipe just a little bit so it flows in there nicely, but this will prevent any sinkhole or any flanking of our structures out there. And it should look just like the dirt that's there today. So the repair project was bid at $32,500. That includes the concrete apron, lowering the inlet, and repairing the sections on the slope that washed out again, and we'll reseed that and do some erosion control work on that. The project is exempt from CEQA. Section 15301 is an exemption that applies to minor alterations of existing facilities. And 15304 exemption covers minor alterations to the condition of land, water, or vegetation. In this case, no mature trees are being impacted by it. And with that, I will take any of your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stark. Director Nichols?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the review, Mr. Stark. And I certainly appreciate the value of having somebody familiar with the site to justify a sole source and if they've done some work. But I just would like a little extra comfort in the fact that if this firm designed and constructed it the first time and it didn't work, and I'm just saying it didn't work, not blaming it or anything, why do you go back to the same ones if what they did the first time didn't work? So could you just kind of review that again as to why it didn't work and why it maybe perhaps was not their fault?
Well,
And why we can support them coming back for a second shot at it?
Well, initially it did work, so it worked for a year, and only one component of it didn't work, and that was, I guess, something that was unanticipated, because we didn't have a history of sinkholes in that location before. So the other engineering part of it is the pipe itself is secured to that hillside. So they were the ones that put that in and developed the specifications for it. We felt that it was still a viable project design ultimately. We just didn't anticipate the one error. So well, yeah, I mean, if I could predict where the gophers would dig, that might be helpful in the future. But I think, and it's not that different from a lot of projects that we end up doing is, you can't predict everything that happens in nature. So it's really not that unusual even when we're doing habitat restoration and work. I mean, I've worked with engineers on fish passage and live streams and stuff, and, we all learned it with every project that we did. So I didn't consider the project to be a failure. I considered it to be something we kind of learned from, and we're all, we'll take a second crack and get it right.
Okay, I just wanted to feel assured that that we just don't keep doing this a second or a third time because there's some unanticipated or unforeseen issues that perhaps could have been foreseen. So
Yeah.
that's I just want to make sure.
I'll go out on a limb and think that we've probably covered all potential sources of failure. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Anyone else? Chair Newman, do you have any comments or questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I do have a question on this drawing. Site 1 is where the pipe and sinkhole are. Yes?
yes, this is a
What is Site 2?
this is a recycled map.
Okay.
So Site 2 was the other repair site that we did some drainage repair in 2024 on. And so that one's still functioning
And
fine.
that, so this doesn't, we're not doing anything to
We're
that?
just doing the Site 1 on this one. I should have made that.
And one
Okay.
last question. We've had a lot of rain this past week. Has there been more damage? Have the rangers been out there? And the second part of that question is, if there's a significant amount, would that change the cost of the project?
So I'm glad you asked because I was going to bring that up. We have not been out to see it after the rains we've had the last couple of days. Conceivably, it could have. It had been. The Rangers did patch it back up again, so it wasn't exposed during the storm. but when it rains as hard as it did, you get a lot of water at one time, that there wasn't a guarantee that that was going to hold again. So, but even, with the road conditions the way they are today, we're really not going out and driving or even walking out into these areas because they're a mess. So we'll probably wait until it warms up for a couple of days so that we can get a little hard pack on that road before we get out there to assess it. It's a possibility that if the temporary repair didn't hold, that the damage could require more effort to fix. I think, and my way of figuring that is, if we have this appropriation to get us going, I also have some remaining grant funds that were associated with the first project. So we have I have a contingency of about $5,500 in remaining grant funds that could amend that budget. And then we also have our regular budget allocations for management work, but I think we can make up the difference.
Excellent, thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, we'll entertain a motion. We have 2 items.
Yeah, I'd move both items, staff recommendations on CEQA and the project.
I'll second that.
Thank you. If we could get a roll call.
And we have no public comments. Director Engler?
Yes.
Director Huffer?
Yes.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Sullivan?
Aye.
Chair Newman?
Aye.
Excellent. That brings us to our information items, 7A, which is the COSCA Volunteer Corps activity. This is a receive and file, but I just want to note for the public record that in the year 2025, between our Trail Watch reports and our Adopt a Trail reports, our volunteers put in 1,257 hours into our open space. I think that's worth noting, so kudos to our volunteer corps. Information item 7B, Ranger operations and maintenance activities. This is a verbal report. All right, Mr. Belovic.
There, now I'm on. Hello, hello. So this is perfect because it's what you guys are just talking about. So kind of an unexpected, very wet winter we've had. Early in the fall, they weren't really predicting this much rain. A lot of high winds caused a lot of damage. So pretty much what we're seeing out there, why we can't get out there to look at some of these faults that Brian was just discussing. Rangers are just out there trying to figure out how to tackle these issues. And that's quite a few places out there. Again, very difficult to get out to try to assess these and start working on them. More damage from these storms, a lot of saturation, trees going down, and it's just been a lot of what the Rangers have been doing lately. The rain doesn't want to go away. We had a couple hot days, which was nice, but then right back at it. I mean, I've been out quite a few places, and the ruts are pretty ridiculous. Not safe for a truck or even a person. Here is a tree that fell down. Pretty cool little clip, and I'll show you the next one is pretty neat. This fell over a trail, and they were cutting it up, and inside was a beehive that pretty much ran the length of the trunk. It was an active beehive, so we actually had a professional come out to remove it and relocate the bees. We had COSCA staff participation in some cool community outreach events recently. We had the e-bike rodeo, or the bike rodeo and e-bike safety event at Redwood Middle School. On January 24th, was a collaboration between several local agencies to promote bicycle safety, responsible e-bike use, and to help inform the public about what we allow in the parks and on the trails and what is considered out-of-class bike or a motorcycle. And I heard that went pretty well for the most part. Ranger Tim here also got to do some interpretation to talk about trucks and show one of his best hawk impersonations for the Wheels on the Bus program at Borchard Park. So Rangers also organized January's monthly volunteer trail workday to improve the Park View Trail. Altogether, this area has had over 75 new native plants and shrubs planted, new plank bridges and signage installed, and countless yards of drainage cleared, trail rebuilt, and illegal path rehabilitation. That's right behind Dos Vientos Park, which is a very active e-bike runway into the park. So they weren't only doing damage on the trail, they were jumping into the park and causing quite a bit of damage there too. So we have Keenan here, who's always happy, always loves his job, and even though the Rangers are facing a lot of work this season, they're always happy to be out on the trail with everybody. And we got the end of it. Rangers doing a great job out there. Again, very limited right now with the wet weather. One more thing I wanted to bring up that, Jim, I know you kind of wanted to touch on. Most of you have read about the gold-spotted oak borer. So as of now, unless Anna has something different, we don't have a whole lot of information in town on. Oh, you do? We do have we have spotted possible activity from my end, and we're trying to get CAL FIRE out to inspect it. They have been unable to make it out quite yet. They're scheduled for next week, I believe, the 24th, to just check out the tree that was. It was a fallen tree, and they were just able to possibly identify some boring holes that could be it. But as we gather information, we'll have a process of how we deal with it. And I've already had my staff train, my ground staff, on identification. And so we're out there, eyes are open, and we just got to wait for the next steps and hopefully not possible infestation or a lot of activity out there. So
Thank you. Do we want further discussion
Yeah.
on the
do you want to say it?
GSOB?
Thank you, Vice Chair Sullivan. I can add a few things. GSOB first arrived in San Diego County in about 2008. I learned about it at that time and have sort of been waiting for it to arrive in Ventura County. It is native to northern Mexico, southeast Arizona, and was for a long time prevented from coming here because there's a natural geographic barrier, which is the Sonora Desert. There's nothing in the desert that the gold-spotted oak borer can live in. So its primary mode of travel is in firewood. So firewood is how it got to San Diego County, then also how it migrated north. There is a known infestation in northeast Simi Valley, which is currently being used as a training area for field seminars. And that infestation is coming directly from an infestation in Santa Clarita. So I attended that as a refresher for myself, along with two of our rangers. And as a result of that training, Ranger Brittany, when participating in removing a downed tree from a trail, noticed some of the telltale D-shaped exit holes from the trunk. A representative forest pathologist from CAL FIRE is scheduled to come out on the 24th, as Patrick mentioned. Coincidentally, she will be inspecting another tree on private property that's a quarter-mile away that was independently reported to her by a resident. Perhaps this is somebody, because Kim has already done trainings for other groups as well, including, say, master gardeners, for example. Separate from that, the city staff in the landscape maintenance division has already removed 4 trees from within the city that have the telltale exit holes. All this information is being tracked. As it happens, city staff in the landscape division is reporting it to the city's strategic communications group, who in turn is sharing the information with the county ag commissioner's office. I don't know if the ag commissioner's office is in turn reporting it to CAL FIRE staff, because CAL FIRE staff is on the leading edge of documenting and monitoring the infestation in Southern California. But I am, through my own connection with CAL FIRE, and what we're planning to do is get together jointly with appropriate city staff, appropriate CRPD staff, and COSCA folk, so that we can identify or establish and identify a kind of a uniform, consistent documentation of the extent of what's happening, monitoring, and then determining treatment protocols for particular trees as we encounter them. In some cases, depending on tree status, full removal may be necessary. In other cases, an insecticide application may be sufficient. But that's a work in progress. But certainly the beetle is here in Ventura County, and we are planning to have a cohesive approach to hopefully controlling its spread.
Excellent, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, thank you. Just a question on, is this a generalized attack on oak trees, or is there specific species that are attacked, or? And then
Gold spotted oak borer tends to favor coast live oaks.
Coast live oak.
Yeah. And that's a tree in the red oak group. For example, valley oaks are white oaks, so not as prevalent in valley oaks. But as you know, coast live oaks are plentiful both in town and in open space areas. So we have a lot that we'll be checking to make sure that we don't get, or this doesn't get too far ahead of us.
And my understanding is that once a tree is infested, the progress is nearly always fatal, or how does it go?
Yes, because what the beetle does, it lives between in the cambium layer between the bark and then the interior wood portion. And so as the beetle creates its network of galleries, it is in effect cutting off the tree's circulation. And so without a functioning circulatory system, the tree doesn't survive. And decline usually happens over 3 to 5 years as that circulation system, let's just call it, becomes compromised.
Thank you. Chair Newman?
Yes, thank you. A couple of follow-up questions. If I understood Patrick and Anna's numbers correctly, it sounds like at present we may be dealing with up to 6 cases within Thousand Oaks or within COSCA's domain. Is it appropriate to say where within COSCA or city areas that those are, or should we hold off until we get confirmation from CAL FIRE or other agencies?
Thank you, Chair Newman. I'd like to wait until we have confirmation from CAL FIRE, and that is meant to be forthcoming next week.
Very good. And I understand the need for sensitivity around this. We don't want anyone to go off saying danger, danger. There's a problem everywhere when it may not exist. But on that point, my second question is, if it does turn out that there are at least some infestations here, what is our plan for outreach and education of residents? Do we feel that what the rangers are doing is sufficient? Do we need help from the public in identifying places where the beetles may be? What's our public-facing plan on this going forward?
The public facing, so far, you may have seen it over the weekend, but the county released social media posts about the beetle, and the city shared that post on its own channels. Going forward from there, what I think would be best is, as I mentioned earlier, we need to coordinate between COSCA and the city and CRPD and develop an outreach strategy that will be most effective in alerting residents in the area to the problem.
Yeah, agreed. A strategy that is both coordinated and informed and data driven, I think would be best. I'm just curious to see how we're going to implement that, where what we as COSCA should be doing, what the city CRPD should be doing. So I look forward to hearing more about that as we hear more from yourselves, from CAL FIRE, from the county. I'm glad to hear we're all working together on this. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, and certainly stay tuned because there'll be more to come.
Thank you. Director Huffer?
Yeah, Anna, you somewhere in your presentation, I thought I heard you mention insecticides. I thought I had read someplace that there's no treatment for this, that it's only identifying and trying to reduce or prevent the spread.
Insecticides can be used in limited circumstances when the tree is not, when infection in the tree is very small. And the purpose of doing that is to preserve the tree in place for a little bit longer. And with regard to what we can just call GSOB for short, the adult beetles do come out of the tree and feed in the canopy for a time. And that's when use of insecticide can offer some benefit. It is not the answer, because when trees are really severely compromised, they have to come out, because then they're just magnifying the population if left in place. So in that regard, though, with the behavior of the adult beetles, that's a bit different than another beetle you may have heard about a few years ago, which is the Polyphagus shothole borer. The shothole borer spends almost 100% of its life in the tree, and the adults do not need to come out to breed or anything like that. The only reason Polyphagus shothole borer comes out of the tree is when the tree is full. And they need to find a new tree. So that one is kind of a different approach. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Director Nichols?
Thank you. This is going backwards to the erosion, flooding, and water issues rather than the bark beetle, sorry, for Patrick. I was noticing in one of your slides, there was a photo of a lot of water seemed like it was going over what looked like a trail, and like that one there. And so it just prompted a question. I was just wondering, and I don't expect you to have an exact answer, but perhaps generally speaking, with the situations like this where there is a conflict between water and trails, or perhaps erosion, whether it's flooding or erosion, my question is, with the situations that we've had, how many of them are related to just a poor drainage design? In other words, just like we were talking earlier, that we need to have some type of improved drainage structure to get the water off of the trail. Or was the trail built in or crossing a stream, and so anytime there's water, you're going to have that conflict? Or 3, because of trail use or abuse that created that situation? I'm just curious as to, with those different scenarios, is there a predominance one way or the other that would take some effort to correct these situations where it doesn't keep occurring?
Right.
Thank you, Director
Take it
Nichols.
away,
In
please.
this particular situation, the trail does cross a historic drain, is an ephemeral drainage. What you're seeing here is pronounced because of the abundant rain that we've received. In the past, and this happens to be in Rancho Potrero, so the trail does get equestrian use. In the past, what would happen is this particular spot dries out quite slowly because it is an ephemeral channel. And so when our equestrian trail users are on the trail, there's quite a bit of post-holing that happens. And so this was an initial fix that was meant to elevate the trail surface above, but still to allow the passage of water underneath it. So it's an assemblage that consists of different size rocks, ultimately with DG laying over some filter fabric. I think what's happening here is that the rock spacing maybe is a little bit too tight, so the water doesn't pass through as it's meant to. So instead, the water is going around, and we see a lot of it, just as I had said, because of the abundant rainfall we've had so far. We are not done with the rainy season, and still we are at well above average for this point in time, right? So this spot will be revisited to come up with a different solution to make sure that we can get water passing underneath the trail as was originally intended.
Okay. And I know we've relied on the public and trail users to use common sense, and when it's raining or wet, you don't use the trails. However, that doesn't always work as effectively as we would like. And not that I expect that we were to revamp our trail system to be all-weather trails, that it should be, used when it's appropriate to use. But my concern is if we know there's going to be some use and unfortunately some abuse, or if there's some designs that the structure for drainage is appropriate, it would be nice to kind of know what that would be to, if we need to kind of move that direction, just to make sure we preserve our trail system as well as eroding natural habitat. And I didn't, again, we don't have an inventory of where all those areas are. I know we do have some like that. But I would be curious to know what that would take to move us forward to better protect some of these areas or our trails so we don't continue to have to repair them.
So I'm going to let Brian jump in, but one thing I will just say initially is that when rain is in the forecast, and it's clear that trails are going to be muddy as a result, we do already post announcements on both our social media channels, which are Facebook and Instagram, and we also posted on our website in 3 different places that trails, and the message typically is trails are currently closed because of the rain and resulting muddy conditions. Staying off trails when they're wet helps prevent future erosion and is part of good trail stewardship. That's generally the messaging that we put out. And if it's an extended closure, we do put up posts that are the equivalent of saying, yep, trails are still closed. And this is just a function of really the varying soil types that we have in open space. In some places, the substrate has a higher percentage of sand in it, so drains better, dries faster. And other places, such as Wildwood or some of our canyons, soil has a very high content of clay. Plus, it's shady. So between a lot of clay, shade, Maybe if it remains overcast and if temperatures stay low, we don't see much drying at all. So we do try and inform our trail users in that regard and ask that they help us provide good trail stewardship. But then Brian's going to chime in.
Yeah, I can speak to Director Nichols' thoughts on, long-term, how are we looking at these places? The climate predictions for our area do include this idea that we're going to get more of our rain. We're actually going to get more rain than before, but we're going to get it all at once. And we're starting to see these storms now. So these storms we're having now are learning experiences. Our supervising ranger, Corey, is already out identifying areas with larger issue problems that may require more engineered approaches to drainage. Because a lot of our trails, they started as farm roads or something. They weren't designed for great drainage, so we're kind of stuck with what we have in some of these places. So I've anticipated the need for addressing maybe some more engineered approaches to drainage in specific locations. So we've already been through Lang Ranch and identified most of those areas as a follow-up to our Lang Ranch Roads Management Plan that we did a few years ago. But this project and some other works throughout the open space are, Corey's lining them up, and and that just is going to come down someday to the budget appropriations and such that we're going to need to take a more aggressive approach to drainage in some locations.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I know we do have a lot of trails, a lot of open space, and with that goes management responsibility. I know we're moving that direction in the life cycle of the agency, so I appreciate your input on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent. Any other comments on 7B? Then I'll go ahead.
Well, after talking about flooded trails and boring beetles and all that stuff, I did have to ask Patrick if you got to keep any of the honey from that great big, huge, giant beehive.
Wasn't me.
No, not that I know of.
Awesome. Well, I do want to say is that a puncheon? Is that what that's called? That particular bridge that was put in 3-ish years ago functioned really well until we started getting the crazy torrential rain in a short period of time. And also a hearty thank you to all the Rangers' work and the fact that between that last storm and the current series, you managed to get the trails open at least for, 36, 48 hours so everybody could get their trail fix. And I know that's a lot more work for the Rangers, open the trails, close the trails, open the trails, close the trails. But I think those windows of opening them may help prevent people from going out when they're actually closed, because then they're not thinking, oh, well, it's closed, but I know it's dry, I'm going to go, and then they stop respecting the closures. So thank you to you and your team. All right, that brings us to item 8, COSCA updates. General Manager Friedel, do you have any comments?
No, but the e-bike damage made me want to just mention a big shout out and appreciation to the city and to especially the Thousand Oaks Police Department for their enforcement activity. We, in the developed park side of the house, have been getting a lot of damage by e-motorcycles more than just your e-bikes. For some reason, because they don't make sound, somehow the rules seem to, everyone forgot what the rules are, and people are doing donuts in our turf areas, ruining sports fields, ruining infields. So I just noticed and the same can happen in the open space with aggressive riding on the trails. So I did notice that the police have been posting on social media the fact that they are now picking up the e-motorcycles, the bikes that aren't even allowed at all. And there's some consequences for the parents and the kids, mostly involving money, because it's kind of getting them out of impound is not cheap. So I guess my opportunity to speak here is just a shout out and appreciation to TOPD for enforcing those rules, and just a reminder to the community. We love the fact that people ride bikes and ride e-bikes. We just really can't keep having our property damaged, and a lot of the safety issues too. We have had, we have all types of people on trails, mom with really little kids, elderly people, and at CRPD we've gotten quite a few calls about safety concerns about typically it's the young boys, not always, but typically it's the, middle school boys on those e-motorcycles that are creating most of the headache. So again, thanks to the police, appreciate the enforcement efforts, and again, we do support bike riding and Class 1 e-bike riding and all that kind of stuff. It's the improper riding we were concerned with.
But Jim, today, just to tack on, I did speak with Sergeant Oganowski from the traffic division over at TOPD, and they've been having some good success with their enforcement programs. And so they did mention that, for the last year or so, they've been working on a lot of educational efforts and put out a lot of information through the schools. And but he says that the education and warning period is over, so they are impounding the bikes that they are able to interdict on. So, and got 4, but they said they did 4 this week. So
Good to know. I do think that bike rodeo and e-bike safety event, I know happened to be in between the COSCA booth and the CRPD booth. We saw no less than 60 families, and while it might not have been the real target audience we were after, the riders that Mr. Friedel's talking about, there was a lot of education out there, and there's also education groups like, Electric Bicycle Academy, and trying to educate the kids on how to ride on the street on the legal bikes. So if there's no other comments.
Just a little tag on with that. I was up at the state last week, 2 weeks ago, and there's quite a bit of talk in the legislature right now for addressing some of the gaps in enforcement that are possible now with these new technologies and new types of bikes. So there may be some help coming from the state in this next round.
Excellent. That brings us to item 9, board member comments. Let's start with you, Chair Newman.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Again, my sincere thanks to fellow COSCA directors. I appreciate your confidence in me and look forward to serving in the year ahead. Just as a follow-up to the comments on e-bikes, I agree with everything that everyone has said. Just wanted to add, following Director Engler's comments, a little more color on activity at the state level. I've been in discussions in state efforts to have a uniform approach to what Mr. Friedel referred to, e-motorcycles and out-of-class e-bikes. So not necessarily targeting Class 1 bikes, which are legal everywhere on an off-trail here, but the out-of-class bikes, which are not legal. There is, I understand from Assemblymember Irwin's staff, a proposed bill at the state level that would require DMV registration for Class 2 and Class 3 e-bikes. I'm not sure that is necessarily solving the safety or destruction of property problem we have. Just from the testimony we've heard tonight, it seems like the motor vehicle code really needs to be targeting the vehicles that really aren't classified, the out-of-class e-bikes or the e-motorcycles. And I think addressing those types of vehicles will go a long way toward reducing destruction of property, as will these local law enforcement efforts. So anyway, this is something that is being discussed statewide. And I think it may be helpful to have a single statewide approach rather than having a patchwork series of regulations that differ from agency to agency. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Newman. Director Engels, comments?
Nothing from me.
Okay, Director Nichols,
No, thank you. I'm good.
Director Huffer.
Likewise, nothing from me.
All right, that just leaves me, and I do have two announcements. Normally, Elaine Robbins would be here representing COSF and COSTAC. We do have the Caneo Open Space Challenge that will be going live March 1st. There may be a delay if our trails aren't open, but if you're not familiar with it, you can go to cosf.org. The Caneo Open Space Challenge began with trying to move people away from Wildwood who were loving our trails to death. So we're trying to showcase all our wonderful trails. There are 10 trails in the North Ranch, Caneo Canyons, Dos Vientos, Rancho Potrero, and Wildwood area on this year's challenge. So I encourage you all to participate. I know Patrick's going to do it this year. And secondly, in April 20th to 23rd, we have our annual Trails Education Days. So look out for volunteer opportunities there. That is all I have. We don't have a closed session. So that brings us to our adjournment. And we are adjourned.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
Excuse me, could I just interrupt real quick? Just
Of course.
a comment you made about the open space challenge and trying to get people away from Wildwood. It just made me, kind of reminded me that we do have at least 2 trails that are paved that are not in COSCA territory, but you can always direct people up Tarantula Hill or around the soccer fields on the pavement trails. So maybe that's something else that could be posted for those people that need a fix, and it's even raining. Go to the paved trails. It's not COSCA open space, but they do have options.
I love that idea. Maybe our COSCA social media folks may put that out if we're on another extended closure.
Thank you for the interruption.
No worries. So we are adjourned until our special meeting on April 8th. Thank you.